everyone, I am Peter from Top Think, and today we are going to talk about 10 simple tips that could save your life. Now, let's begin. Number 1, the 3 rules of 3. Whether you're in a plane crash, kidnapped, or stranded in the woods, there are 3 simple rules that you need to memorize if you hope to escape any disaster with your life. When you're going through your normal routine, you probably don't pay much attention to the basic necessities that keep you alive and kicking. You don't keep track of the air you're breathing or whether or not you can afford to go another few hours without water. But when you're stuck in a life-threatening situation, it is absolutely essential that you know your body's limits to help you survive as long as possible. So what exactly are those limits? For the most important 3 resources, air, water, and food, you need to remember the 3 rules of 3. You can survive for approximately 3 minutes without air, 3 days without drinking any water, and 3 weeks without eating any food. I know these numbers might sound a little crazy, especially the last one. You've probably been eating 3 meals a day for your entire life. So how is it possible to survive without food for 3 whole weeks? Well, each number is based on the absolute maximum amount of time we can go without that resource. In other words, 3 days without water or 3 weeks without food would be extremely painful. You're going to be really dehydrated and starving the whole time, but the goal here isn't to make yourself comfortable, it's to survive. Therefore, the main use of the 3 rules of 3 isn't to test how long you can last without food or water, but to help you concentrate on what's most important for survival. Let's say you and your friend get lost in the woods and neither of you have any food or water on you. Obviously, air wouldn't be a problem in this situation, but you're both getting hungry and thirsty. Your friend suggests that you try to hunt down a deer. So what do? Using the 3 rules of 3, you know that finding water is much more urgent than finding food. So instead of wasting energy hunting animals, you should first look around for a river or stream. Number 2, pause at green lights. Believe it or not, pausing for a few moments at a green light could be the difference between life and death. Think about how many green lights you drive through every day. A few? A dozen? Maybe more? Chances are you barely even think about it while you're doing it. You just step on the gas pedal as soon as you see the light turn green, trusting that all the cars on either side of the intersection are stopping like they're supposed to. Do you ever think about what would happen if they didn't stop? Like the hundreds of thousands of people who are injured every year in this exact same situation, you probably don't. But the truth is that 47% of all car accidents are caused by someone running a red light. Now, put yourself on the opposite side. You're driving down the road in a rush to go eat or meet your friends when you notice the light in front of you turn yellow. You know that yellow means slow down, but who wants to sit and wait at a red light? So you speed up and try to beat it, thinking you'll save time and meet your friends that much sooner. Without even realizing it, you expect everyone on the other sides of the intersection to wait a tiny bit longer while you speed through. Do you ever think about what would happen if they just slammed on their gas pedal without looking, just like you do at green lights? My point is that by simply being aware of the mistakes that other people commonly make on the road, you can save yourself from joining the hundreds of people who die every year because someone mindlessly decided to run a red light. Number 3, never remove objects from stab wounds. You may have seen this simple survival tip in action in TV shows or movies. But don't make the mistake of thinking they made it up just to add drama. Let's say you're walking down the street one night when a robber comes up to you, stabs you in the leg, and runs off with your wallet. A lot of people's first reaction would be to pull the knife out of their leg, but it is absolutely critical that you leave it inside the wound. It seems counterintuitive, I know, but the knife is actually stopping you from losing huge amounts of blood because it's applying pressure to the arteries and veins in your leg. If you pulled it out, nothing would be stopping those blood vessels from bleeding, meaning you could actually die of blood loss. Instead, your first priority should be to call 911. All EMTs are trained on how to deal with these kind of stab wounds, so do yourself a favor and let them handle it. But what do you do if there is no object? Say when the robber stabbed you in the leg, he pulled the knife right back out. What do you do then? Well, just like before, the goal is to stop the bleeding, so apply pressure to the wound using your hand, jacket, or shirt. Don't stand or move around too much if you can avoid it. Just call 911 and apply steady pressure for as long as you can. Number 4. 3 critical numbers. If you are attacked or stuck in a life-threatening situation, you should know when you can and cannot call 911, because that call could end up saving your life. Plenty of people fail to call for help and end up much worse off simply because they didn't realize they could. Unlike a normal phone call, you can actually dial 911 on nearly any smartphone that has some sort of cellular connection. The phone doesn't need a SIM card or service from a carrier as long as it can connect to the cellular network. You can also dial 911 on anyone else's phone, even if you don't know the password. Most smartphones will have an emergency button on the lock screen, so if someone else is injured or unable to dial the number themselves, you can still use their phone to call for help. Number 5. Opening car doors underwater. While this situation may seem obscure, hundreds of people actually die in submerged cars each year, partially because they don't know how to get out once the car has started sinking. If you drove your car off a bridge and into the water, for example, would you know how to escape? Your first priority should be immediately opening a door or breaking a window. Most people waste those all-important initial moments trying to help other people in the car or gathering their belongings, so they miss the opportunity to open up an exit path. Once the car actually starts sinking, the pressure difference between the inside and outside of the car will make it impossible for you to open up a door or window at first. You may be tempted to try to force the door open, but you're only wasting energy that you'll need later. Instead, stay calm and wait for the car to fill with water. This will allow the pressure to even out, making it significantly easier for you to push open the door and swim to the surface. Number 6. Using the bystander effect. If you're being attacked, the unfortunate reality is that someone probably won't come to rescue you, even if it's happening in a public place. A number of studies have shown the power of the bystander effect, which demonstrates that people are less likely to help someone in need if other people are around. It sounds weird, but we tend to think that if other people are there, then someone else will step in. However, when everyone thinks that same way, no one actually ends up helping the person in trouble. So, if you're that person in need, you can avoid the bystander effect by calling out to a specific person. Even if you don't know anyone's names, saying "guy in the red shirt" is better than nothing. If you isolate them as an individual, You're removing them from the crowd and giving them a direct responsibility. Instead of waiting for someone else to step in, that person will be far more likely to take action themselves, meaning you stand a better chance at avoiding injury or worse. Number 7, use your spit in an avalanche. When most people are planning a trip up to the mountains to hike, ski, or snowboard, they spend more time thinking about what color jacket to bring than what to do in a real emergency situation. While it may not seem like a threat to you, avalanches actually kill hundreds of people around the world annually, with many people dying simply because they didn't know how to find their way out of the snow. When you're caught in an avalanche, you're probably going to sink as it's moving, because our bodies are so much denser than the loose snow. But when the snow settles, it locks you into place, making it almost impossible to tell where you came from or even which direction you're facing. And you don't have much time to figure it out. Remember the 3 rules of 3? Well, in an avalanche, you only have those few minutes to find an escape route before you begin to suffocate. So how do you get out? Well, first, you need to know which way to dig. Instead of wasting precious time and energy going in a random direction, you can quickly figure out which way is up by watching your spit. Thanks to gravity, your spit will always fall down, so you know to start digging in the opposite direction. Number 8, swim parallel to a riptide. Being stuck in a riptide is another hazardous situation that few people know how to get out of, because the solution is almost the exact opposite of what you'd think. If you plan on visiting Hawaii, California, or certain parts of Florida, it's important to look out for potential riptide locations, especially if you've never experienced one before. Riptides are basically strong currents created when an inlet or barrier beach constricts water flow. These currents can be really powerful, making it difficult for you to swim your way to safety before the tide sucks you out into the ocean. Riptides cause dozens of deaths because people expend so much energy trying to swim against them that they end up drowning. So how do you avoid making the same mistake they did? Instead of going against the current, swim parallel to the direction of the riptide. While you won't be getting any closer to the beach, you can effectively escape the strongest part of the current before making your way back. This simple tip can actually save your life the next time a riptide is pulling you out to sea. Number 9, don't suck out snake venom. I'm sure you've heard that the best way to treat a venomous snake bite is to attempt to suck out the venom with your mouth. While this strategy may work wonders in movies, trying to suck out venom from a wound will actually hurt a lot more than it will help. The truth is that once a snake bites a person, the venom begins circulating through their bloodstream way too quickly for you to do anything about it. To make matters worse, the bacteria from your mouth can also cause an additional infection, making the wound even more life-threatening than it already was. So if this technique doesn't work well, why did it become so popular? Well, lots of snake bites, even from venomous snakes, don't actually contain any venom. So, you have lots of people sucking on snake bites and miraculously saving lives, even though their lives were never in danger to begin with. What should you do instead if a snake bites you? It's actually pretty simple. Limit your movement, keep calm, and try to remember what the snake looked like. When help arrives, they're going to need to know which antivenom to use. So knowing more details about the snake's appearance will give you a much better chance at survival. Number 10. Ask a delivery place for directions. In the modern world, getting lost is a lot more difficult than it used to be, but that doesn't mean it never happens. We've all become so reliant on smartphones and GPSs to guide us everywhere that most people are kind of hopeless without them. So let's say your phone's dead, your GPS isn't working, and you have no idea how to get home. What do you do? Believe it or not, finding a pizza delivery place is probably going to be your best and safest course of action. Why? Because most of the delivery drivers know how to get around by heart, since they do it over and over again every night. It's also a lot safer to go to a public restaurant than someone's private residence, so avoid doing that whenever possible. If there aren't any delivery places around, hotels are another great place to ask for directions. Most of the front desk managers are especially knowledgeable about the area, and, worst comes to worst, you could always stay the night while you figure out what to do next. Thank you for watching Top Think, and be sure to subscribe, because more incredible content is on the way.